Howdy, 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 and thank you for joining me this evening. And welcome to another Sunday night here at Poe on the Go. And you know how we get things started. Let's get to our old pal from Clearwater in here and hear what he's got to say. Chad, how we doing today, bud?
Good, good. How you doing, Poe?
Doing real good, sir. So you got a weather report for us?
I sure do, Poe. We'll get right to work. We got a lot of work to do. 85 degrees in Clearwater, Florida. 0% precip, Poe. Wind is at 4. Roscoe advises 50%, 52% humid. Back to you, Poe.
All righty, sir. Well, Roscoe's sitting over here on the floor. He's ignoring everything right now. You know, he's a prima donna.
I hear that, Poe.
So, all right, we're going to bring Chad back a little bit later tonight. Returning friend of mine. Last week we had just a simply amazing live stream. Got a lot of great information out. We have even more coming out tonight. Have a big announcement to make, but here he is. Without further introduction, the man himself, Jeffrey Augustine. How we doing, Jeff?
Good. How you doing, Chief?
Good, good.
Yeah.
Long night, but it's over. It's finally time to relax a little bit. So
yeah,
you know,
you had a long day. I was up about a ranch visiting a client. Ooh. You know, Southern California has a lot of ranches on the periphery. You know.
1 second, let me let this monster out.
Yeah, let the beast out.
They're scratching on the door, wanting to be in here for the live stream. And then, of course, as soon as he hears a leaf fall outside, he's got to start barking. So,
yeah.
Great watchdog he is. You know, you can let people could come in here and tear the whole house apart. He wouldn't move, but open up a single slice of cheese, and he'll be at your feet in half a second. So,
yeah,
looking like one of those superheroes or something. Last week, absolutely fantastic live stream we had. A lot of great feedback on it.
It's good.
Yeah, it was great, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. They thought it was it was one of the better ones that we've had on here, without a doubt. I agree. I had a great time with it, and I think that we got a lot of great information out there. So,
yeah, it's important. It's important to do. That's the power SPTV.
Oh yeah,
SPTV. You know, just I'll do a Chad-like thing. The weather here in Los Feliz, California, 74F, a little bit muggy, and our Scientology index alert today is at 75. And I rate it that high because we have a Scientology PI calling around. So that's why the Scientology high strangeness alert's going up. Captain David Miscavige, through his minions, has a PI by the name of Gabriel Sanchez calling, phone number 818-531-7927. He's calling and asking about the Aftermath Foundation, and he's making allegations. Now, this guy tracks to GPS investigations, and it looks like it's an out-of-state firm, and there's a DBA, and that's all publicly available. You don't even have to be a PI to do this. So Scientology Office of Special Affairs, now we had to raise the Scientology index to 75. And this individual uses a PO box in Encino. So this is some low-level harassment campaign. Chief, what's L. Ron Hubbard? He has two types of investigations.
Really?
What the history of it? Back in 64, Hubbard wrote a policy to use hired outside professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have your own inside people, but then you have liability, and they're not trained. So he started using hired outside professionals to gather dirt on his enemies, and he created the Guardian's Office as an intelligence gathering, and it became more and more professional. So obviously, the first type of investigation PIs perform, and even police, is covert, where you don't want to be seen. You don't want the target or subject to know they're being investigated, followed, right?
And that's something I wanted to get in with you. Is we get a lot of correspondence from people. I know I do, and I know that you get it as well. A lot of people who think that they are being followed by Scientology PIs, and one of the real trademarks of it, if they're a private investigator with any merit to them at all, you're probably not going to know that they're following you.
True. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying there's two types of investigations. If there's a covert
Yep.
investigation, you'll never see. I mean, you can make PI sometimes. They get
Mhm.
too close, they're too obvious.
Right.
Uh, but generally, the other type of investigation where it's really gaslighting when Scientology does it. It's
Would
just
that be the loud investigation?
it's called the noisy
Noisy.
investigation.
There we go.
You were close, but on
Yeah.
Liz Gale's Scientology trivia, that would have been a fail. So, the noisy investigation, it's where you want the person to know they're being followed, and it's a form of gaslighting and harassment.
Yeah.
Like this that Sanchez who's calling people, OSA wants the foundation to know they're being investigated, and so it's just one of those things that sometimes when some new person, especially, they want to test them to test their resolve, and they'll try to intimidate them to see if they go away. Because what Scientology wants is to shudder its critics into silence.
Right.
That's really what Hubbard's deal is to silence them so that Scientology can operate with impunity. And that's the whole purpose of fair game. And what we want to talk about today, Chief, is what PIs are, their limits, what they can do, what they can't do. Because it's important. It's
Exactly.
important. It's important for people to know what PIs can do and can't do.
Exactly.
So,
And I think that, the first thing everyone has to realize is that the name itself bears witness to what they actually are and can do. Private investigators. They are not anything official. They could be state licensed or whatever, but they hold no true authority in what they do. And that's a very important thing, because you will see them that will try to intimidate you. They will try to make you think that they have more power than they do. But when it all comes down to it, they have no more authority, no more outreach, nothing more than the average citizen has. So,
right,
what are
right.
some things that you can do to them there, Jeff, that a lot of people don't realize you can do?
Well, let me elaborate. PIs
Mhm.
are civilians. They have no
Yeah.
police powers. You don't have to answer anything. You can't. You don't. They have no police powers. What they have is a license to investigate. So let's lay out a couple examples to clarify before I answer your question.
Okay.
One of my specialties is investigating white collar financial crime because I'm good at finding money, shell companies, things like that. That's why I started the Scientology Money Project, because I wanted to break down, and I started that as a blogger, a research, um, an investigative researcher, and I still do that as an investigative researcher. And I wanted to know where how Scientology was built, how it's organized. So a private investigator is often used when the police don't have the resources to do a case, or where there's a legal issue that's not criminal in nature.
Right.
But let's say $1 million goes missing from a company, and the owner, he or she or they, will contact a private investigative firm to look at internally, because usually you suspect when money's gone, it's an internal matter.
Right.
And the police don't really, if I call you, let's say you go back to the days when you were on active duty, chief of police, right?
Hmm.
And I'm a business owner. I say, hey, chief, there's $1 million missing from my company,
Right.
but I don't have any idea who did it. What would the police do? What could
Well,
you really do? I mean, what would you do?
well, I'm going to take the initial complaint on it, and in our case, with when the city that I first worked for, where I was a detective sergeant and I'd gone through the FBI leader school, I had a lot more insight into the actual financial crimes than a lot of detectives would have because of the schooling I'd been to. But one of the things that I have to do is, even if the owner of that company gives me 100% permission to go through the company books, I'm still going to have to go back and get warrants at certain points. I'm going to have to get
Right.
those so I can secure them and place them into proper evidence with the court system. And there's a lot of hoops, a lot of boundaries that I have to get by, a lot of hurdles I have to get over. And that's where a private investigator, especially someone who can do forensic finances, is going to be much better than me, because they can actually be hired in by that company to come in and do that work, and they don't have to get the warrants. They can take everything that they've pulled together, present it to me, and then I can enter that as evidence with their work. And I don't have to worry about, did I violate 4th, 5th? What amendments to the Constitution did I violate when I should have done it a certain way, gotten warrants and everything? Allowing a private investigator to do that is, if in a lot of times in those situations, it makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker to get to the root of where that money's going to.
Sure, and that's a good point. A lot of times a company owner, they will hire an attorney who will hire a forensic CPA, and they'll also hire me.
Yep.
And I'll develop evidence in the field for who's the most likely person to steal the money, because to commit a crime, money means motive, and you work through. You use different means and it makes it a lot faster. So PIs are often called in where speed is necessary. The police don't have the resources, and there's something at stake. Time, you know that when anything goes wrong, Chief, you know that time is of the essence.
Oh, yes.
Those first 24, 48 hours is everything, because if you don't get it right away, you might not get the perpetrator.
Well, especially in this day and age with everything going digital the way it is, the ability to remove that money, send it offshore, break it up into 1,000 different accounts, put it into several different countries, and then put it back together, put it into your account. You can do that in a matter of minutes now.
Oh, it takes, you have your phone and you just now. But having said that, the crime's still been committed.
Right.
And so it's sort of like one thing I would do and is go look at the social media of everyone involved in the company. That's the first thing a PI does, or the police does.
Who's got the new boat? Who's going on the new vacation that they never would have went on before?
Yeah, who's showing all the bling, on their social media profiles.
That never fails to amaze me. I had one where this guy was a convicted felon, and someone said that he had pulled a firearm on them. He pulled a handgun on them. And so I had fake accounts that I used for Facebook and for Twitter and a couple of other things that I'd set up through the department. And so I was able to friend this person. And the next thing you know, he friends me back, and I'm able to get into his Facebook account. And sure enough, there were 7 different pictures within the last week of him holding the gun that was described by the victim. And I was able to get the warrant for him, and able to get the conviction for a felon in possession of a firearm. Another felony he just put to his name, put himself in prison for there is a mandatory time you have to serve for it. And he got that thrown on him, all because he wanted to show off on Facebook.
Yeah, that's if you're going to commit crimes, to have social media. But the thing is the ego, the arrogance of the criminal mind. But so PIs like retired homicide detectives are very valuable, because if someone in your family has been murdered and the case has gone cold, really, there's so many good PIs who can help find missing persons. Solve cold cases, find valuable things or missing people. So now, but anyway, what I normally do is I'm hired by an attorney, and the attorney, he or she or they, will instruct me on what they want me to look for. I develop evidence to give it to an attorney. Now, it could be just a civil matter that'll turn into a lawsuit, or it could be a criminal matter.
Right.
And I just want to clarify one thing. And you'll know this from being an officer of the law. Sometimes the evidence leads you to the place the original complainant doesn't like.
Right. And that's not unusual. That, and when I saw work for corporate entities, large corporations, in their factories, what a lot of people don't know, and my father, having worked with General Motors and being part of their plant police system, and knowing the ins and outs of these plants, they're like small cities. You have 3,500 people working in there in an 8-hour shift. So they have alcohol, drugs, they even have gambling in some of these factories. So what they would do is they hire in private investigators, go in undercover, and be a new employee there, find out everything that's going on, get the evidence. But what was really crazy is you have people running actual gambling rings within this factory, or they're selling drugs, or they're selling alcohol while people are working in, and some of these are working on cars, on the vehicles that people are going to be driving down the road.
Yeah.
And instead of turning it over to the police and allowing it to be an actual court case, they go to that person, they show them the evidence, they bring them in, they show them the evidence, and they say, okay, you need to sign this letter of resignation or we're going to cops on you.
Sure.
When I spoke to a plant manager about this and why they did that, instead of, because as soon as this person's gone, someone else steps in their shoes and they're right back to the same thing they have. It seems like it's almost a useless kind of thing they're doing. But the way they look at it is, it's cheaper for them to do it that way, have the person sign the letter of resignation and just walk away, than for them to have to pay for unemployment benefits for X amount of time, even if the person gets convicted of the crime.
Sure. And sometimes companies will settle things privately to keep, to protect their stock prices or reputation.
Yep.
And so some things you want to, sometimes PIs, they want PIs to, like you said, settle things confidentially.
Yeah.
Let's say a company where a mother discovers her 27-year-old adult child is the one who stole the $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she's not going to want to hear it, but that's the evidence,
Right.
So that's what PIs do in the main. You get involved in all kinds of stuff, and you tend to specialize in your areas of expertise.
And I want to point out a lot of, just because certain organizations and certain private investigators bring a bad name or a bad light to it, most private investigators, like police officers, they're there to do the job and do it right. There are the select handfuls that are willing to go outside of what is legal, moral, or ethical to do it. But for the most part, private investigators do their job. They do it properly. And they're just like any other profession. So I want to make that clear that, even though we're talking about more of the scummy side of it, that it's not the case that that's how it works. It's like with everything else, one bad representative of it with this new age of social media and instant gratification, it automatically makes it look like all PIs are bad. And then that's not the case at all. So.
No, but Scientology is egregious. Now, to get back to your opening question, what do you do if you've been talking about Scientology online and you suspect you're being followed? Well, the first thing I have people do is keep a log of, today is September 3rd, 5:18 p.m. I had a white male individual, approximately 6 feet tall, photographing me at this location, Hollywood and Vine, right? Just keep a log. And also, if you can just use your camera, your cell phone is so much power to be able to video people, take photos. But the thing that I tell people to do is not panic. Don't be worried. Having a PI from Scientology photographing you. Don't worry about it. If you're going about your usual day, and you don't let it worry you. Scientology wants to intimidate you. It's an intimidation tactic, and don't be intimidated by it.
And that's the thing. And I want to stress that even more, folks. They can't do anything to you that any normal citizen can't. Yeah. If they do something more, they're breaking the law. And oftentimes, if they're doing that, they're risking losing their license and the ability to continue on with their profession. So, if you think you have one that's following you or they're keeping track on you, just remember, there's nothing they can do. All they're literally trying to do is find something that they can use to disgrace you publicly. There's literally nothing. If they show up, they show you an ID or a badge. Here in Michigan, it's illegal for private investigators to carry a badge.
Yeah.
I don't know about other states, but I know here it's illegal. They have to same thing there. And they have to let you know that they are a private citizen who is just licensed to do investigations. They don't have any authority. So you don't have to worry about them, folks. Don't, if you're being followed, like in my case, and I've talked to a few different people about it, and it's not about the fact I do the cop talk or things like that. They think it's strictly with the fact that I've been associated with Aaron Smith Levin, and that he is, well, right now he is the big dog when it comes to YouTube. They are really unhappy with him, and they feel that that's where the having them come after me was because of that, because we were talking about the crimes of Scientology and exposing them that much more. So,
Sure.
otherwise they wouldn't have even touched me. So
Yeah. Now, how I encourage people not to be intimidated, but
mhm.
what Scientology PIs will do is Scientology is big on building relational databases. Who knows who you're connected to?
Oh
So
yeah,
they'll go through social media, they'll go through your jobs and associates to find out who you're connected to, and they'll try to find someone to influence you to stop doing what you're doing. They'll try to get like and how this works is that they're going to find, like, let's say you're the sole support of your family, and you go wife and kids, or a
mhm,
husband, and kids, but you're the sole support of your family. And what they're going to try to do is get to your spouse.
mhm.
So they may not target you, but they may get to your spouse and get to convince them that, hey, you know, your spouse could lose their job if they don't stop attacking Scientology. So the bad PIs try to create what Hubbard called the dangerous environment racket. And they try to make you think that you're in a dangerous environment and something could happen. So if you do get targeted by a Scientology PI, it's smart. You may not want to. May want to talk to a lawyer about it. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just saying you may want to advise your employer. Hey, look, I'm a former member. I'm speaking out. They're targeting me. And most employers are fine. You have First Amendment freedom of speech,
Exactly.
and so you when you do need a lawyer, contact a lawyer. And if you are ever scared of a PI, because some of them are freaks,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
call 911.
Hmm.
Say, there's a PI following me. I'm worried that he or she may be carrying a gun, because some PIs are licensed to carry.
Yes,
So you say,
and
I believe an armed PI may be following me. Drive to your nearest police station or go somewhere safe, like a Starbucks.
mhm.
But the first priority is call 911 if you do actually feel real present imminent danger. Call 911 right away.
That goes hand in hand with when I was talking about police impersonators. You want to go somewhere well lit. If it's at night, somewhere well lit, very public, where people are going to see what's going on. And if you feel that this person, well, in this case, if it's a private investigator, or if it's someone who's impersonating a police officer, call the actual police, and start there. And do not, if it's someone who is possibly a police impersonator, you want to make sure you have your phone out, you're recording what's going on, and you want to make sure that you're checking everything up. And a simple phone call to the police department will handle that. In the case of a PI, you literally just tell them, like you said, I'm being stalked by someone. They're following me
Yeah.
everywhere I go. I don't feel safe. And if you saw it and you know that they have one, this person, I saw that they have a gun. Believe me, you're going to get a response.
Oh yeah, and make sure you get the license plate, as much information
Mhm.
as you can. If you can't, but just follow what you just said. I'm being followed,
Yep.
and I'm in fear. So it's important to protect yourself, your personal safety, um, and also be aware of your surroundings. You can check around your house. I showed last week. I don't have it here. I showed my GPS scanner. You can buy inexpensive ones.
Hmm.
Generally, generally Scientology prefers intimidation rather than getting. They don't want to be sued. If a PI working for a Scientology lawyer got in trouble, there could be a lawsuit. In the case of Ron Miscavige Sr., the father-son duo who was stalking him for a long time, when Ron Miscavige wrote his book Ruthless. This is a story I want to recount about Ron Miscavige Sr., because we have new listeners. This was the father of David Miscavige. Ron was in a small town in Wisconsin, and this is in the police files. So Ron's parked outside the store, and there's a black SUV. And in small towns, everyone knows everyone, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's this big black tinted out SUV, and it's by the bank. And Ron has his pocket. Ron has his phone in his pocket. It's like not he's fiddling with it, like
Mhm.
sometimes you can't get it out. Like now, mine's stuck.
Yep.
And the the PIs are at an oblique angle, thinking he's clutching his chest, having a heart
Oh yeah.
attack. And this is where they call David Miscavige and say, "Sir, it looks like your father is having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Should we call 911?" And David Miscavige allegedly says, "No, if he dies, let him die."
Yeah. If it's his time, it's his time. Let him
That's
go.
that's ruthless.
Yeah.
Now, what happened, and this is an instructional case for those of you PIs who might want to work in the employee of Scientology, that's taking cult blood money. It's got bad karma. In this case, these two idiots, it's father-son team, they're in their big black SUV outside the bank, and the cops roll up on them because they think they're going to rob the bank.
Right.
So they roll up, they do a felony, a felony approach, right? Guns out, driver, windows down, hands out, the whole 9 yards. Get them out of the car, face down, cuff them, right? And they find multiple fake IDs, multiple license plates,
Oh.
scanners, radios. They find weapons and ammo. And Chief, here's where they got them. They have a silencer in the car,
Mhm.
and it's not registered.
That goes fed automatically.
Automatic 10-year sentence for having an unlicensed silencer. What is shocking is in America, in some states, you can own a silencer if it's registered. Anyway, this was an
That's
unlicensed silencer. So
that's insane.
the police drag them in. They do the right police thing. They separate them, right? Different interrogation rooms. Just for police procedure, people who are into it, why do you drag the two suspects into different interrogation rooms? This is fun. Just
Oh
tell our
yeah.
listeners, yeah.
Well, you know exactly why, because I'm wanting to get them both separated so I can see what the difference is between their stories, so that I can start hitting on what they're doing. And they're always, if they're in the right, their stories are going to be different no matter what, but they'll be somewhat to the point where you can actually, they'll look the same. They'll come out with the same ending as before, but if they're full of crap, then they're going to end up with completely different stories with completely different outcomes, and it's all going to look like just one big jumble of spaghetti when they're done.
Yeah.
So
And the interrogation was really interesting because how would it, just hypothetically, okay, you've got a father-son PI team, and they've admitted they work for Scientology. They have a silencer. What's your question when you interrogate the father? You get into his head, he wants to protect his son,
right.
and there's a silencer. So what do? How do you get them to spill everything on Scientology? The
Oh,
client.
I'm basically going to dangle it like bait. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to go, your son looks like he's a pretty good sized guy, but how do you think he's going to hold up in federal prison on a 10-year stint for a silencer?
Oh,
You
Lord
think
have
he's going to
mercy.
be able to handle that? You think you're going to be able to protect your son? And I'm going to start breaking them that way. And then my next step is, well, if you guys don't want this on your shoulders and you don't want to be going down for this, you got to give me something a whole lot bigger, because right now I got a guaranteed 10-year on a felony conviction. So you need to give me something that's worthwhile for this. And PIs, if they're that scummy that they're doing that kind of stuff, they're going to be willing to turn code on their employer and start giving you the information you want to get. So
Yeah, they're going to say, one of them even made a remark that Tom Cruise was paying him. That's anecdotal, but they spilled everything, and then Scientology. That's where Ron Miscavige Sr. I loved him dearly. Karen and I, we were very good friends. uh, with he and his wife. And in fact, when he came out here to LA to do the Joe Rogan show, he and Becky, his wife, stayed at our house, and Ron said, and this is about disconnection. He said he didn't want to write a book or go public, but Scientology cannot leave him the hell alone.
Right.
They just had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then when Nick Pye, the detective there in the small Wisconsin town, told him what had happened, if he died, let him die. And that's part of what they got from the PIs during interrogation. That was just too much. So if you're speaking out online, you have to have situational awareness that there could be
Exactly.
retaliation for the Church of Scientology. Now they'll try to say, here's the scam the church uses for PIs. They're saying we're doing pre-litigation investigation. And that's what church lawyers do. So Office of Special Affairs will normally have attorneys who will in turn hire another attorney who will hire the PI firm. They do it through cutouts. That's well known. And
Oh
it
yeah.
is harassment. They'll also do social media harassment online. So in addition to being followed by PIs, I normally ask people who call me with concerns, is there online harassment? If there is, that's more indicia of a program being run on you. Are they contacting your relatives? Are they contacting your employers?
Well,
That means
look at just last week. We had, what was his name, Alan, who was in the chat, and he was making these ridiculous statements throughout the time, asking questions that were very leading with only one or two answers to them. And when I actually brought it, he was told, you're going to get booted if you don't stop this. And when I actually brought him on, and you fronted him out right there, proof that they are in here and they're doing these things. So, I'm not surprised they do it. And I honestly don't care that they do. It's not going to stop me. They're not going to scare me out on this kind of stuff. And I
no,
don't think they're going to scare you either. So, you
no.
know,
Well, one thing they do try to do is any groups that form, whether it's a Facebook group or it's any, a group, they'll try to infiltrate.
yep,
So they'll try to infiltrate PIs. Mark Headley outed one at a gathering several years ago on
that was
video.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, and the guy had no talent, right? Because part of being a PI is you have to fit in. So
exactly.
there's plenty of times I put my hair up under a ball cap,
Mhm.
and I just try to blend into the scenery. Like here around Hollywood, I wouldn't have this Western shirt on, but I was
Right.
up at a ranch, so it kind of like, why not? I was around some. If I
You went
wasn't
Yellowstone on it.
well, I was gonna go horseback riding, but I ran out of time.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I'd be out horseback riding and maybe and come back to the ranch house and drink a few long necks, right?
And the same with me when I would do undercover work. I played to my strengths is throw an old beat up ball cap on, and then I would throw old work clothes on. I actually had jumpsuits from the local utility companies that I could put on. And I had friends that had old beat up pickup trucks and drive those. And I just throw that Southern accent in there, however I was talking. And I could literally roll up on people that have met me and they don't realize it's me.
Yeah,
So it's all in how that you work it.
you're
If you,
that good, sure.
you
So
know,
I mean, if go ahead.
it's all in, a good PI is going to blend in. You're not going to know they're there. Uh,
Sure. And
it's the little mistakes that they make is how you catch them up on things.
sure, and this is an interesting point. If you're a new Scientology critic online and you think that you're being followed, keep a record of the harassment. If you feel
Mhm.
endangered, call the police. But also be aware of what you write on social media. That Arnie Lerma, and I've repeated this before. He said, never write anything that you couldn't defend in a court of law. So you
Yeah.
do that. Be circumspect about what you're writing. Don't do anything for which Scientology could level an accusation against you. With the police. So you watch you be circumspect in your behavior, and obviously, Most people lead very good lives. They don't have and if you have a past, you might get hit with something. They might try to smear you with it. But the public's very forgiving. Everyone has a past, and they've done things, and um, so it's just you have to count the cost when you're a Scientology when you're a former member of the church or a critic or a journalist. I know several journalists who were actually rattled by Scientology writing letters to their employer or attacking them online.
And that's another thing, like you were talking about earlier. You need to let your employer know. Look at what's happened with Mark Headley, where they were literally contacting his clients, and they were going after them and saying things.
Yeah.
So it's
When you go through your baptism by fire, your first attack by the cult of Scientology, it can be very unnerving. But after you go through it a few times, you get conditioned to it. Uh, Karen and I will always have detractors, and that's just part of what we're doing.
right.
So, but this is why I'm glad Leah Remini's suing for defamation and libel,
And,
because
and
now,
that it's going to bring it to the front, and it's going to make it very public what they're doing and how they do these things. And I think that that's a fantastic thing that she's doing.
I say I admire her courage in doing it, because one, it allows for discovery, and it will allow her to potentially call people who have been fair gamed, that showing there's an interstate pattern of harassment. And I had a PI, she came to my house one day, and I said, this is part of an interstate pattern of harassment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think ultimately Scientology is self-destructive enough to where we meaning critics, journalists, former members,
Mm-hmm.
lawsuits, we can show that there's an interstate pattern of harassment to violate civil rights by attempting to take away people's right of free speech. So again, I'm not a lawyer. It's one thing
Right.
if someone's talking bad about you online, that's free speech. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That goes with the territory. It's kind of one of those things, Chief. Harry Truman, one of my heroes, President Truman. He said, if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And it's sort of like, this is not for everyone. There's a certain amount of
Exactly.
I mean, going out public, sometimes it's better to stay under the radar, and talk to your friends.
Well, I'll give you
Is
an
this,
idea. I think
yeah,
Alex and Goldie are having a fun time with the chat today. It looks like there's been a couple of them in there already going at things. So that's
today I'm channeling Wild Bill Hickok. Yeah, I'll take that. It's not
I
bad.
didn't see that one.
Half felt
Hey, that's
bad.
all right. Go with it,
Oh,
folks. Everybody's got their style about them. So yeah,
well,
Alex saying they're on it. So yeah, that's crazy. Now,
more Doc Holiday by
there you go.
Samuel
Now
Huckleberry.
we were we were
Um,
we were talking earlier about we had talked in the last one about the forming a watch where we have put in the information if you think you're being followed and the information that you can go with it. But we were also talking about another kind of detail that we're thinking about, and if you want to go into that about the watch itself, the crime watch.
Sure. What I'd like help with, and well, two things. First of all, I'd like to bring on an expert
Hmm.
on gaslighting with you, and we would discuss
Excellent.
gaslighting. She's
Oh.
expert at it. Gaslighting is a real important part of it, and gaslighting is where you could come home and something on your porch that was on the right hand side will be on the left. The just odd things get moved around your yard, and there's trying to screw with your head. So you have to ignore the gaslighting, and that's part of counting the cost. But what I'd like to do, and I need help with it because I'm already like doing a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
Um, I want to create an online database to report Scientology PI sightings. So what I'd like to do across North America and Europe is actually track purported harassment by Scientology PIs to show that isn't both a national and international pattern of harassment of critics. Document it and just show how pervasive it is. That would be an interesting study. And that would be an interesting real-time study. You could enter it in, and we need an attorney to define the rules, because there's some things
Right.
we don't want to post, because you
Excellent.
can't just accuse someone of being a PI. You don't want
Right.
to put up a plate or a photo. It's sort of like have enough to establish a pattern. So that's where I need help with an attorney to lay out this study, maybe an academic as well.
Well,
But we want to get our mind around the scope of the problem. One thing, Chief, I'll say that's important, and I wrote a long time ago at Xeno.net, Scientology, and this is important, I want you to listen. Scientology relies upon the economy of terrorism. That means if they can get one person screaming, it might keep 100 people quiet. So what do we not do? We don't
I'm writing this down.
negotiate. Yeah, Scientology relies on the economy of terrorism. Hubbard said, put a head on a pike, conduct a noisy investigation. But what do we not do? We do not negotiate with terrorists. These psychoterrorists, we don't negotiate with them. They can go fuck themselves. It's sort of like, if it takes a lawsuit, if it takes exposure, getting to media, you don't give into it. Now, like I said, your own life, everyone out there. And sometimes, you're raising kids, it's better to stay under the radar. You have to make that decision for your own life, because it's not always appropriate to speak out. It's not. Or use a screen name and a VPN.
Yeah. Well,
protect yourself at first. Yeah, go ahead.
2 good points on that. Going back to, being careful what we post out there about who people think are following them and all. Think back, there are several cases that have happened through I would say Facebook and Twitter, where someone has been angry at someone else. And one case I remember in particular was a bad breakup between a husband and wife. And so she went and, as someone else, posted a picture of him at a store saying, "This man followed me and my children through the store, had me very scared. He's a stalker." Other people started reposting that and putting it out everywhere. This guy actually got confronted and physically assaulted when he had done nothing. Yeah. And so we have to be very careful about those kinds of things, folks. You need,
and that's a point well taken, Chief, because we do not want vigilantes.
Right.
No vigilantism. You don't do things. The power we have are our words. And the evidence of fair game, the photographs. You see stuff from Scientology, Stan League, its Hate Monitor online.
Right.
Document all that. Take screenshots and compile it. So you have a body of evidence, because my prediction is that there will be action taken against this interstate pattern of harassment and psychoterrorism. So compile everything. I have been telling people for a long time to archive, save it. And I've had stuff that has been introduced into court cases because it came from me, and I saved it from screenshots.
And
in fact, I had a complaint, attempted complaint lodged against me, and I knew where it came from outside a suburb in Sacramento. I know the individual, because I'd saved it from a screenshot.
Wow.
And I was able to neutralize that because it was a bullshit complaint. So, the threats, the implied threats, save it all. Save it all. And if you need to go to the police to file a harassment complaint, the police may not do anything, but it's important to do an incident report, especially if you have the name of the person. You go to the counter. Here, LAPD will do what's called an investigative report. It used to be called incident report in IR. At least you have the person in the system,
right?
And you give the evidence, and that's what's important to do. This has stepped up. The reason I think it's stepped up a lot, this current wave of harassment, it comes and goes. It sometimes is more intense. Scientology high strangeness alerts. Danny Masterson's conviction was a global news story. and now he's being sentenced here the 7th, and I'll be in the courtroom. He's being sentenced.
That was a big question. A lot of people were asking is if you were going to be there to cover it. So,
oh yeah, I'm gonna be there in court, downtown criminal court. Yeah, I'll be there. Aaron's gonna be there, and a couple other people. A
Tony will
lot
be
of
there.
people. A lot of people will be there. It's gonna be a crowded courtroom up there on the
That's
9th
good.
floor.
Put it
So,
out there.
well, what I expect to see. We have seen a Scientology PI during Danny Masterson's first case talking to one of the witnesses.
Mm.
We did see that happen. So they'll actually which you start getting into, this is where you get scummy PIs. You start getting near felony obstruction in a court case with a witness on witness tampering. I'm surprised the DA didn't charge, personally.
It would, I think that
But
this case is so deep, my goodness. But we don't know if they could be holding off to do a much more massive indictment.
well, there's talk about there being a grand jury. I don't know anything about it, of course. But the behavior of the church, this is what's so stunning, Chief. David Miscavige runs the whole show. My argument has always been that the Church of Scientology is legally the alter ego of David Miscavige. And I think in the Wollersheim case, Larry Wollersheim proved that the old Church of Scientology of California was the alter ego of L. Ron Hubbard. And in the Rathbun case, where Monique sued in 2014 down there in Como County, Texas, they came so close to proving that the Church of Scientology was the alter ego of David Miscavige, the alter ego finding. So there's a lot of things, and right now, it's sort of Scientology. You keep pushing. People are going to push back on you and collect evidence. Thank you for the $5 super sticker, Sharon.
Yeah.
And people are going to push back on you. And you got to remember, our side has a lot of smart people. We have a lot of smart people on our side, capable, able, brave, courageous, and they're not going to back down. Chief, what was it? So I think we talked about it last week, but somebody put up something that OSID posted that we're 10,000 or 1,000% stronger than this small group, and yet we can't stop them. Well, it's because it's not a small group, and what Scientology doesn't understand is it's Western culture itself repudiating your fascist psychoterrorist tactics. It's culture itself. It's not a handful of bitter defrocked apostates, and even that is language developed by Scientology's paid cult apologists.
Wow.
So fair game's are complex. They look at, firstly, how to intimidate you, and if a PI will. Oh, bless your heart, that lovely woman.
Yeah,
Karen de la Carriere.
I can't wait to get her on here.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
Yeah, she's such a beautiful soul.
Oh, she is. I love her to pieces. Of course, I'm married to her too. So,
I was about to say, who am I telling? So
yeah. So, so if, like I was saying, count the cost before you come out. Once you're out, you have some fun with it. You write, you blog, you post, and you project your power. You project your personal power. And when you tell Scientology, I'm not backing down, they suddenly have problems. And I'm also tracking you. Everything you do online, I'm recording, screenshotting, saving, archiving. I'm building evidence. Because on my blog, the Scientology Humanity Project, I put up a lot of screenshots, evidence, legal documents. So compiling evidence over time to show a pattern is part of it. And that's why I'd like someone's help who's more sophisticated than me in terms of doing an online compilation in a database.
Right.
We could call it like this. My blog's called the Scientology Money Project because back when I started 10 years ago, Scientology and money was the question that got asked all the time.
I think if we had someone who was quite good with doing the digital kind of work and all that, say like an apostate Alex, who's really good with those kinds of things, having someone like that come on board would certainly be a big asset to it. So
Yeah, someone who can do these databases online. So we could call like the Scientology PI tracking database. Because once you know what, here's the thing: private investigators want to be that. They want to be private.
right.
But if you can actually out them and get their names and identities online,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times they'll do it themselves, like the two PIs who followed Pat Broger for 25 years and got fired by David Miscavige in the budget cutting. They just sued him. I got
yeah. And isn't it was Mitch? They're claiming he's going to have to pay $750,000 for an NDA or violation or something like that. And,
oh geez,
it's
you know
crazy.
what's interesting about Mitch Brisker
Mm-hmm.
is he's a different animal. You know, he's sort of like in a previous video, y'all were showing that King Cobra.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Mitch Brisker's venom. If I were Captain Miscavige, I would think, I don't know that I want to sue Mitch Brisker. He knows a lot of stuff, and that's the problem. You can sign a bunch of NDAs. In my corporate career, I signed, I don't know, 100, 150, I don't know. They were routine, right?
Yep.
But once you sue somebody and you get into discovery, some of those NDAs, I mean, they can go out the window because you're having to defend yourself. Your
Mm-hmm.
attorney, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I'm saying that like Mitch Brisker, I noticed they haven't really been fair gaming him. So there's always like field attention. OSA has to feel the tension.
Yeah.
With Mitch, it's sort of like, can we get Kathy, the port captain, to write him a nice letter that's sort of menacing? It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of trying to mess with his mind. You know, we're your friends, and you've committed at least $750,000 in breaches. I don't know.
It's crazy stuff. Auntie Harju wanted to know, have either of us encountered Scientology harassment that they are known for?
A whole bunch
sure
of it.
you have.
Karen and I, a whole bunch. The hate pages, all the slime, the PIs at the house. And I guess, you know, Chief, is like, you were a cop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a cop, you're in a position to evaluate other officers, whether they're good, bad, you know, most of them are good. I guess me being a PI doing the job, it's sort of like I know what it's like. So I'm not impressed by other PIs. By that, I mean, I'm not intimidated. I would say that there's some colleagues I work with who are very impressive, and they're mostly former retired law enforcement. Some have enormous skills on money laundering.
Oh yeah.
But just being one, when we talk amongst ourselves, the people that like would work as here, let me give you a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you have PIs who do normal PI work. And then above that level, you got dirty PIs who are called fixers.
Right.
And fixers, like on Pulp Fiction, Harvey Keitel's character, Winston Wolfe, you know how he helped get rid of that body in that car?
Yeah, they're either that or they're fixers or cleaners.
Yeah, they call them fixers or cleaners. And Scientology hired a PI named Anthony Pellicano who did some time in prison. When the FBI raided his place, they found some explosives, military grade explosives, and thousands of hours of wiretapped conversations. Mr. Pellicano had to do some time.
Oh yeah.
And back in the day when he was a notorious private investigator, he lost his license. He was called the Sin Eater in Hollywood because he would make your sins go away. So there's a hierarchy of PIs. The schlub that's out calling about the aftermath, you get a fixer. I don't know that Scientology, after what happened when Mr. Pellicano's office was raided and those tapes were found of Nicole Kidman, it included Nicole Kidman.
Oh yeah.
During her divorce from Tom Cruise. And I have a whole thing on that. You can search my blog about Nicole Kidman being wiretapped. And according to Marty Rathbun, David Miscavige said make it happen. So that's the report. You know, that's what Marty reported.
Goodness.
I think after Pellicano, that was really bad because had he talked, he's kept the code of omerta. He's Sicilian, uh, and he didn't talk. But an attorney, Terry Christensen, went to prison along with him and some Pacific Bell employee. So there's fixers, but really on the day-to-day stuff, if you're speaking out, you know, and you're willing to do it, you're going to take some arrows in the back. You
Oh yeah.
know, you're going to take it's what Shakespeare said: the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. And thank you, Goldie.
And you have to make sure that you're, just realize that there are going to be secrets out there you may not want people to have or to know. But
Yeah.
you've got to be able to stand up to that, and you've got to be able to face it if you're going to do this kind of stuff. Because if you have those skeletons in the closet, it's very easy for them to jump out. And
Yeah, that goes on in our day and age. But look at the calculus. If they posted something about you that's less than flattering,
mhm.
it doesn't falsify the fact that they're a malicious, vicious,
Right.
transnational criminal syndicate. So it'd be like the mafia saying, "Oh, you picked up this charge back in 1995." Well, that doesn't change the fact they're a criminal organization.
Right.
So, but it's a non sequitur, but they'll nevertheless engage in it. So the bottom line is, don't be afraid of the PIs. That could happen. Keep a log, but you have to really have internal resolve that this is justice work, social justice work, to try to get their 501c3 income tax exemption from the IRS revoked. And that's something that I know a lot about. It's a contrarian view. I've never done a podcast on what my opinion was on their tax exemption. That's for another show, maybe.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that.
Well, it would be boring because there's a lot of it's a lot of bureaucracy,
Oh
But
yeah.
but to be sure, there was some fuckery in it, to be sure.
Well, I know this. If
And
I'm looking into their finances, if I got to, once I've taken off my shoes and socks, that's as far as I'm going to be able to count. So
yeah.
I leave it to professionals like you on that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's like the Chase Wave credit card fraud was so big and pervasive, and Aaron Smith Levin's done a great job of covering Chase Wave credit card fraud.
Yep.
And I know a little bit about it. I heard things. I heard things, and that's all I'll say. I heard things, and one thing I've said for a long time is Scientology is inherently self-destructive.
Oh yes.
It's just inherently self-destructive. So Scientology, we can leave it like this. It speaks out of both sides of its mouth. It wants to say L. Ron Hubbard's mankind's best friend, when Hubbard wants to destroy everyone 2.0 below on the tone scale in a Scientology genocide.
Right.
Scientology wants to say it's there to help with its volunteer ministers, and it has solutions when it's attacking, defaming, slandering. So it's sort of like you can't have it both ways, Scientology.
Well, it's like the motto that they go by, where they're saving the world. They have their volunteer ministers out there helping everyone. But yet, if you're not someone that they would want to be part of Scientology, you're not worthy of that. You're a degraded person, and there's no love for you whatsoever. A perfect example, it was the org member who in LA out there spraying the homeless people with a water hose. Those are degraded people. They're not worth their time. So
no, and now that Danny Masterson was convicted on 2 counts of SA,
yep,
forcible SA, and he's looking at 30 years to life, Scientology can't undo that.
Exactly.
And they covered it up for 20 years instead of handling it back in early 2000s when it happened. They covered it up, and that's a matter of record and a criminal conviction.
And
so. Is Scientology incapable of reform? It certainly appears they're incapable of reform because they're driven by very malicious, vindictive policies and fair game, disconnection, there are other brutalities. So it's up to Scientologists what they want to do with their church. As long as it's run by a dictatorship and a tyrant and it has these insane, vicious policies, it's not going anywhere. And like I said, it's not a small number of people online. It's Western culture itself repudiating the Church of Scientology, and that's why it's lost so much power. over the years.
And I think that specifically the internet and social media have been such a huge point on that. Whereas you could say, you know, I believe this is happening to me. This is what's going on. Whereas now you can literally pull out your phone and upload it to YouTube, upload it to Facebook, any platform, and you have this instant proof of what's actually happening to you. So I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing. And thank you, Sharon, for watching from Flint, Michigan. Hey, you're just a couple hours north of me. Big fan, first time. Oh, thank you so much. And we really appreciate having you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that was good. We'll have to talk more about this, and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
some more
The gaslighting.
specifics. Yeah, I'd like to really
Oh,
talk about what gaslighting is and how you have to. What Scientology. I'll bottom line of this as we conclude. What Scientology wants to do is get inside your head.
Mhm.
So don't give them free space inside your head.
That's
You have to
exactly.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's you don't let them get inside your head. That's it. You
And
stay
they're,
strong, and a lot of it you tune out the lies, so you don't. There's a way you have to learn to deal with it if you're going to be an activist and
oh, yeah.
speak out against the church. Sometimes you might have to sue the church. Sometimes you might have to call the police. You do what's appropriate to protect yourself. And I'm proud of all the people that are out there fighting against the church.
And the big point of it
And
is document.
yeah,
You know, in law enforcement, we have a saying: if it's not on paper, it never happened.
yeah,
So making sure that you document what's going on, you report it, and then once the database is up and running, you could put that information into there and help build a case showing that there is this actual repetitive nature in what that they're doing, and actually it's a formalized strategy that they use against person after person. And this is how we start breaking this down.
yeah. That's what we need, the database to show an interstate pattern of harassment and violation, civil rights violations.
Exactly. And I know we only had you for a short time tonight. I know you have
Yeah.
another
Yeah, I have an
obligation.
engagement. Jeff
Yeah.
Levins, his film is Breaking Brothers is over in North Hollywood, so Karen and I will be attending that. Looking forward to seeing Jeff and everyone else there, and NoHo, as we call it around here, these parts.
You know, as always, Jeff, these talks that we have are simply amazing. There's so much information that's coming out, a lot of things that people don't even think about. And, you know, and I agree with what you said, having a retired chief of police, former detective, you know, the two of us, you know, working hand in hand with a private investigator on this. There's so much we can expose on this. I can't wait till our next talk where we go even further into how you can actually counteract these PIs and what they're doing now in the newer generation of private investigators.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great that OSA has to put up with a former chief of police detective and a PI talking about them and what you can do about it. So yeah, it is.
Oh yeah,
it's nice. We'll do a video where we get a lawyer on, and then we'll have a whole.
That's exactly. Yeah, we get that, and then we get the person, you know, get the young lady that you were talking about who is an expert on gaslighting. This is going to be just stellar kind of content that is really going to enrich people's abilities to, you know, make their way through these kinds of environments with it.
Sure.
So, well, sir, thank you very much for your time tonight. Again, always truly appreciate you. Nothing but respect and honored to have you here. Sir. All right, sir.
Good, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, so let's bring back in our good old pal Clearwater Chad. We got some questions to go over and some comments. Are you ready?
Sounds great, Poe.
Have you had fun so far?
Yeah, I loved it.
Jeff's something else, ain't he?
He is. He's great.
Let's see. First one comes from our old pal Apostate Alex. Scientology are massively missing the mark with social media. They could use it to their advantage, but instead they just make it worse for themselves. What do you think about that?
I certainly agree with him.
I do too.
They keep taking a hold, don't they?
I think that the very first part of that statement, they're massively missing an opportunity here. They could have done so much for their public reputation if they'd handled it properly. I think that the whole point of them constantly playing the victim and everything, you're a religious bigot and you hate our religion and we can't have a religion because of people like you. That gets old after a while. You can only call it so many times before it blows back in your face. Let's see here. Oh, here's an interesting one from Deviant Outcast, one of our pals. Wait, would I expect PIs to be carrying in the US given how prevalent the ownership is and carrying is? Symbol and loaded. Am I mistaken? And when it comes to, in a lot of states, when it comes to the ability to carry in those kinds of situations, you have to be licensed. You have to go through instruction and you have to be approved to be able to do those kinds of things. You can't just, I've got my license, so now I can do that. Me as a retired law enforcement officer, I am allowed within every state in this country to conceal carry if I wish to. And that's a federal law that came into effect many years ago. But yeah, it's not an assumption that everyone's going to be carrying, because some of them maybe have a criminal past that they can't carry and they can't get the license to carry. So that's something you have to be aware of with those. Adrian B. Jeffrey Augustine is my favorite guest. Hey, what about Clearwater Chad? Huh? No, I'm joking. Thank you. Yeah, he's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I these talks that I get to have with him, they're just awesome. Let's see. No, I'm looking at a couple of other things here. Cedar Duvall, I feel like our justice system is so convoluted that it takes forever to make an ironclad case, even or maybe even especially for ethical, well-meaning attorneys and other individuals. What do you think about that, Chad?
That's a good question.
You're saying that our system's so crowded and it's so overburdened that it takes forever to make an actual case that's going to stick against someone. And
I mean, that's true. Keep in mind, everyone, at least in my opinion, the system's not perfect, but it's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. And here's another thing. As someone who was an actual detective sergeant, and I went through a lot of training under that guise, the thing is that there's so much more than just the conviction that you have to take into account when you're investigating a case. There are so many people who have been wrongly convicted and sent to prison. You want to make sure that you're doing everything properly. You're dotting all your I's, you're crossing all your T's. You make sure that you have the evidence there that is going to meet with the charge that you're bringing against this person. And that's why we have multiple levels of checks and evaluations. When a police officer takes a report on a scene, that report, once it is completed, is then turned over to their command officer. That command officer is going to review that case. They're going to make sure everything is in there that needs to be in there, that's going to meet the criteria for the crime involved. Once that happens, it's going to go to a detective, and the detective is going to further on that, and they are going to make sure that they are, everything meets the criteria that they need, and then it goes to a prosecutor. The prosecutor is going to evaluate it as well. And if everything works out, then at that point, they're going to go forward with trying to get a warrant or to actually, begin the prosecution of that individual. And you have to remember that you need to make sure that you're covering everything. I personally, as a detective and, doing those kinds of cases, I always wanted to make sure that I was on the side of the right on it. I did not want to have someone going to prison that was not, that I wasn't 100% sure of. And because the last thing I ever want is to take someone's freedom away from them, that didn't deserve it. Ale Ruiz, Rothschild, Antarctica. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. How is the weather there? My goodness, that's got to be crazy down there. Whew.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm going back. Going through the chat here. And I want to thank everyone who came in with the super chats. That was awesome. Thank you so much. I turned it back on for this stream to see how it would go. And amazingly, someone had said they can't keep your super chats. Well, they're keeping mine. And, I actually had to go back, get screenshots of the actual super chats as they happened. And I still haven't received them back. And I've asked the question, what about my super chats? And I'm not getting an answer on it. So that's why I turned off the supers for a while there and, and relied on buy me a coffee, that kind of thing. I also want you to know every single penny that comes in for the channel goes to the channel. I'm not spending it on any other things. It's going to buy better equipment so that I give you a better experience and better quality of the content that we're putting out there. I don't know about that. I have such a police officer voice standard issue.
Chad agrees.
There's I know guys who sound like squeaky mice that are police officers. Let's see. Deviant Outcasts. So it's not an issue of private person could carry with license. PI, police security, carry with special license. Well, if you're a police officer, a private security police officer, that's part of your training to get your certification for it, for police and private security police. As for private security, you have to go through the special licensing to be able to do that. And then with private investigators, that's how it is. That's how it is in Michigan. I can't speak for every state, but what I do know is that some states you don't even have to be licensed to be a PI in the first place. So things can be clearly different. Yeah, Alex, I am working on it. Well, you know how it is. It's like trying to pull teeth, trying to get answers to anything. So let's see. Greg says, thank you, Clearwater Chad. You're so goofy. Love you. Chad's part of the family here. He is part of the channel. So we're always honored to have him here. And folks, if you are in Scientology and you want to make that break, the aftermathfoundation.org. That's where you want to go to. They can get you out, help to do it anonymously, get you someplace safe, start getting you back on your feet so that you can actually start providing for yourself, start providing for your family, and make that move to get yourself right. All right. They can do it anonymously, or you can be as loud as you want to be. But the aftermathfoundation.org, yeah, they're, that's the place you want to go, and they're going to take care of you. And Chase, I took it as a compliment. So, that's one of the things is, it's been a big thing with me in law enforcement. A lot of people say I'm just absolutely the most chill police officer they've ever met. And true. I just, I weigh everything out. I don't snap on things. There are times when I have to act or react immediately, but for the most part, a calm, lower tone voice that is quieter, it's going to help to bring people back down to a more calm state. I've literally walked into rooms where people are yelling and screaming at each other, and I just whisper. And next thing you know, they stop because they want to be able to hear what I'm saying. And next thing you know, we're talking. We're not screaming anymore. Denver Steve-O, and welcome, Steve-O. Chad, blink twice if Poe is holding you against your will. That's kind of hard to do since he's I
know, right?
12 hours away from me right now. So
Poe, did you know I don't carry a weapon?
You don't?
No, I don't need to because I'm heavily trained in martial arts.
Oh yeah, you are a weapon itself. You have to be licensed.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've heard about guys like the whole nine. Yep.
You remember back in the 80s when the karate revolution got huge, and they had there was 15, 20 magazines for martial arts, and he had all these people showed up out of nowhere taking out these ads in those magazines. I'm a 15th level Dan in this kind of kung fu, and which kung fu doesn't have dans, they have different rankings, but you had all these people showing up. Yeah, I have to be legally registered in every state that I go into because I'm such a dangerous weapon. And it was hilarious because there are states where they don't even care. Witness, they absolutely can be. And believe me, I've seen it. Yeah, Chase, it's there's a whole big difference there. Let's see. I'm actually going to be pretty soon here. I'm going to be making a trip back down, and a name. I carry a piece of sharp cheddar.
Nice.
There you go. That's the good stuff there. Oh yeah, witness. Yeah, the photos in those ads were hilarious. You got these guys that are about 5'8", pushing about 350 bills in their karate stances and their gis, and I mean they look like Peter Griffin in a karate gi. So hilarious. You remember those, Chad?
No, actually, honestly, I don't. But that's pretty funny.
See, I grew up taking, learning catch wrestling from my father, which is a form of submission grappling. And I actually got into a couple different kinds of martial arts. I actually ended up practicing Muay Thai. But, it was hilarious to see those magazines because, like a lot of other kids, the Jean-Claude Van Damme was out there, Steven Seagal, and these guys were just the ultimates. And, so everybody wanted to be into martial arts. Everybody wanted to be in karate and stuff like that. So we always, I always got those magazines when I had the money and checked them out. But those ads in the back, like the Dim Mak, the one touch kind of stuff, my goodness.
Wow.
But you see now over in China, there is a mixed martial arts practitioner who actually goes out and calls out these fake black belts and grandmasters and all that stuff. Literally does mixed martial arts on them, and they don't do so well. So,
well, Poe, you remember '93 with the OJ stuff when that happened? I read that OJ book, or didn't read it. I seen a clip of it, and remember the waiter guy? I forgot his name. Ron, I think maybe.
I don't remember. No.
Okay. Well, anyways, the waiter guy that was with Nicole. I guess he OJ said in the book that the waiter he went into a karate stance, and then OJ blacked out. So and then whatever happened allegedly happened.
Oh my goodness. Well, one of the funny things about it was Steven Seagal is actually a real black belt. And, I've heard Joe Rogan and a few other people. For me, it was when Jackie Chan was on one of the shows and he was on a talk show and they said, well, what about Steven Seagal? And he stood up, sat up straight and he's like, oh, he's for real. But we have to remember that the style of martial arts that Steven Seagal practices in was designed for people who don't have a weapon to take on a samurai or someone who has a sword. And what really makes it impressive is it has the beautiful takedowns with the flipping arm bars and those kinds of things. He was very impressive. So, that's why he made so much money and became so popular. Then you got Chuck Norris, who was a real world champion in kickboxing. I mean, the guy ain't no joke. So sugar cookie crack, could you even learn karate without a feathered mullet? I did, but I was one of those that was pretty much the outcast kind of guy. I was the alternative kind of person. They'd call it goth nowadays. So I had a very different look at things. That a lot of the people that I saw once Steven Seagal got popular, oh yeah, everybody was growing their hair out, pulling it straight back, putting it in that ponytail as tight as they could. Yeah, I saw a lot of that out there. Let's see here. Just going through. Hey, Willie Weed is here, and I saw my buddy Dave from God Alive Thailand was in earlier. But I really didn't want to interrupt Jeffrey because everything that was coming out was pure gold. Let's see here.
Hey, Poe, before I forget to tell you, did I ever tell you, I know this is not related, but my Aunt Marie is actually a big fan of yours.
Oh, well, hello, Marie. Thank you for being a fan. Well, thank you for watching. So,
she likes your voice too.
Well, thank you. It's just my voice. I don't know. It's just how I talk. So
she's more of a fan of yours than mine, I think. She said she told me
because she knows you. That's why.
She said she's seen my puppet show. I'm like, puppet show? And then,
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, you know what? I mean, for someone watching and not knowing what's going on with it, that would seem like you got a little you got a little Jim Henson production going on there. So
I just wanted you to know that.
And let's see. one of the, we were talking about, Jeffrey was talking about earlier about with, we're actually, I think we should start calling the Scientology PIs and their thugs and everything the Keebler Commandos. I think that's a better name for them.
It's a good idea.
They're led by the king of elves, and so they live in a tree. So why not Keebler Commandos? I think that's the way they should be. Let's see here. So, folks, if you got any more questions or anything, go ahead and throw them out there now. And let me know what you think about Jeffrey. I think Jeffrey is amazing. He's putting like I said, the content he's putting out is absolute gold. So if you got any questions, just throw them in there with, you can either put question at the beginning of it in all caps and the rest of it regular, or you could put @Poe on there, and, we'll go through them. I had some that were started earlier that I went through. If there's anything you want to put out there, and please, folks, one of the things is that, I try to stay away from vulgarity or anything like that. So if you could just kind of watch the language in there, it would really help. Let's see. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Witness is watching Jeffrey's, his coverage of how the sentencing goes. So it's going to be a really, really good one. Let's see here. Sugar Cookie Crack, Private Investigators for Scientology Subversion. Oh, I like that. Can't say it. I know I'll get struck for that. Let's see here. Was there anything in Scientology that you'd still find helpful in your lives? Well, the thing is, and I've made it very public about that, is that I was never in. And I've had a life of pretty much servitude where, after graduating high school, I immediately went into the United States Army. From the United States Army, I came out and I became a police officer in over 32 years in law enforcement. And the thing is that with me, my first experience was the Dianetics book and the volcano commercials that came out when I was a teenager. And it wasn't until later when Leah and Mike came together. Well, I saw the Going Clear movie as well. And then I saw Leah and Mike with the Aftermath Foundation, got absolutely hooked with that. And then, going down the rabbit hole, I ran into Aaron Smith-Levin online. He asked for a law enforcement person that could help with giving some insight into law enforcement views on it. And that's how I ended up where I'm at. And it's been great. And I've found probably one of the best groups of people I could ever find. Such supportive and caring people, so empathetic. Chad, how about you?
Oh, absolutely. I started with watching the Leah show, and then I found Levin Smith, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. And Auntie, to further that, a lot of times what I do when I'm speaking with someone who's a former Scientologist, I will ask them, what positives did you pull from being a Scientologist? Everybody wants to hear about, the beatings, the coercion, all those things. I also want to show, these people they devote their life to this, and they put so much to it, and they miss so much in their personal life taking care of it. I want to know, were there anything that you actually got from it that you find helpful now? And I see folks like Mark, Aaron, all of them, they have this amazing work ethic. And you see pretty much each and every one of them that are out. They find something that they get themselves focused on, and they're able to make a very good living for themselves. So, I'm sure there are positives that they've gotten out of it. It's just the way that everything's run that they couldn't be part of it anymore. Let's see. Who's running the book on how fast? Yeah, there you go. That kind of hurt. No, I'm joking. But we'll see how this one goes. It's probably already struck. Joni Cummings. What is the best thing you have ever seen as a cop? I saw a lot of great things. I got to work with Rosa Parks. An absolute a treasure in U.S. history. this very petite, very frail looking woman who spoke very softly, but there was so much power in her voice. That I would say would be number one. And then I helped to deliver over 6 babies that, the mothers went into labor and there was nothing more you could do about it. So, being there to actually, we see so much of the other side of the coin with law enforcement, but to actually be there and, take this, there was one child, the mother was literally sitting on the porch and it was snowing out. There was probably a good 4 to 6 inches of snow on that front porch. And, the baby came out, the EMTs snipped the cord, and I went to hand the baby back to the mother, and they're like, no, push the baby inside of your coat, hold the baby there, get in the back of the ambulance, and we're taking you to the hospital as well. To me, to be there and see that, that was amazing. Let's see here. Joel McCoyne. Having Jeffrey on as golden. His insight is on spot. I have always enjoyed listening to him. Together, you guys are great. Thanks. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That means a lot. Joel's one of the he's another family member here with the SPTV, and to have you say that, that's awesome. Suzanne B, have you or Chad been fair game? Chad, how about you? Have you been fair gamed?
I haven't. No. Nope.
I had at least one private investigator that I know was following me, and we had a talk and things. I haven't had any more problems since then, but I found the air tags underneath the car, those kinds of things. So it's real. It does happen. And talking with several people that that are former Scientologists and talking about the whole thing, they believe that it's directly for my connection to Aaron Smith Levin, Aaron, and that's why they came after me, because he literally is the biggest name on YouTube now in the anti-Scientology world, and he's a real threat to them, so they know it. Let's see, he had to rephrase that a few times. Typos. You know what? If people can understand it, I don't care about spelling, none of that. Yeah, Alex is doing great. And from what I was seeing earlier, it looked like you guys had a few challengers out there to you. Hit that like button. Oh, yes. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, as I had said, I had turned off super chats because when I was getting struck, I haven't received any of the money from the super chats. So the thing is that I, said, let's go to, I have the coffee account if you want to do anything there. Batgoat, newborns lose heat immediately. Yes. And especially here in Michigan winters, it's not good. Number one issue, post-delivery, crank heat and drive. Yep. And that's exactly what they were doing. I had a big heavy leather jacket on with a nice liner inside of it. It was very soft. And, I was able to put, I literally ripped my shirt open and put the baby in so it was up against me so it could get my body heat as well. Child still doing good to this day, is 19 years old. Graduated high school, getting ready to start college. They took a year or two off, and now they're getting ready to go to college, and good kid, real good person. I'm happy to have been part of their life. Let's see. Deviant Outcast. The love the co-op with Jeffrey. You both are great people. Thank you so very much. Very sensible, very insightful, warm and caring, and a wealth of knowledge, a force to reckon with. I give most of the credit to Jeffrey on it. I'm just me. I do what I can to, when I'm doing these things, I use my personal experiences and the things that I've learned over the years and try to, just present an empathetic and caring point of view on things. So, I give the credit to Jeffrey on most of this. Let's see here. Willy Weed is my first time, but I have to work with them, so I'm trying. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't catch you either.
Well, and that's it. So, folks, if you got anything else, pop it up there. It doesn't have to be on topic. We got a little bit here. I'm going to have Jeffrey back next week. We're going to be following up. And Tuesday night, if you weren't already aware of it, going to have a special one this Tuesday night. Let me pull it up. And this one is going to be interesting. I know Aaron Smith-Levin had done something on this, but basically it's Scientology is fighting the right to repair. And if you know me, anything about my channel and the way I am very strong in my support of right to repair. I think that if you purchase something and it breaks or you're having a problem with it, that you should have the right to repair it without having to go in and pay ridiculous fees to have your own property fixed. And so I'm very big about that. And mine comes from the farming world, where you have people going out and they're spending anywhere from $200,000 to almost $1 million on these big pieces of farming equipment, and they can't even change the oil. If they change the oil, they void the warranty on their equipment. And there are some states now that are fighting back that say, yeah, you have to give these people the right to be able to work on their own stuff. Let's see here. Auntie John, Chad in all caps. You're cool people, both of you. Thanks for doing what you do. Thank you so much for being here. You're part of it too. Being here and supporting, being part of the chat, you're part of it. You're part of the SPTV family. So, we thank you. Looking forward to that one. Oh, okay. Excellent. Let's see here. Deviant, are you going to be on tomorrow night for the pre-show? Let me know, because I'll be in there.
Yeah,
what
for sure.
Purpose of the air tags, or just an intimidation tactic? Oh, I don't think it was intimidation, because I didn't find it till I was up underneath the car doing some work on the car. That's when I found them. So I don't think it had anything to do with intimidation at all. I think it had everything to do with tracking my movement. So it's that's a real thing. Let's see here where we got here. Care for JCYT. Love this channel, Poe. Thank you so much. And I know you have been here for quite a while. And, again, thank you so much for being part of the family. Batgoat, big fan of Louis Rossman. Oh, I know. You talk about addicting. My goodness. And the fact he sits there on that big oversized recliner with that cat crawling on him all the time. Have you seen him yet, Chad?
No.
I'll send you some stuff over for him. He does a really good channel. He's huge. He's got like 1 million subscribers. Let's see. Let's see here. Sugar Cookie Crack. The more decent the SPs seem on their channels, the worse Scientology looks to the public for all. Terrible things they say and do. Exactly. And I understand there are a lot of people who are very angry about how they've been treated and how things have gone, and you just have to remember, there's a fine edge between being angry and appearing angry to actually being over the edge and going too far with it. So, and that's one of the reasons why you rarely see me get I've never raised my voice on this, other than joking. And that's because I refuse to allow anyone to really get my goat on things. There are a couple of times where I've been very staunch about someone has said something and I'm like, nope, not going to happen. Not that way. But, that's my beliefs. Everyone is allowed to have them. I'm not upset with the people. And I really, I want people to be able to have open conversation, but I ask that you keep it respectful and that you remember other people have a right to their thoughts as well. So Joel McCoyne, right to repair is big for me. I live in an agricultural country. Looking forward to the show. I am so furious. Chad, you remember you and I went over how the auto companies are starting to do this stuff.
Yeah, I'm big on that stuff too, Poe. I've always, well, not lately, but I used to work in the automotive aftermarket parts stores and stuff. So I'm big on right to repair too.
To me, it is so insulting that you buy something, and say with me, if I'm buying a vehicle and I'm ordering it, I have that vehicle put together the way I want it. And then to get the vehicle and find they've added these other things to my vehicle without me asking for it. And then tell me, oh, by the way, if you want to use it, you have to pay a subscription fee. No, that's not happening. You know, it's ridiculous. Everything is turning into subscriptions nowadays.
Yep.
Let's see.
And they're hard to cancel.
Yeah. Melanie Kowak, regarding newborns, yes, crank heat, but dry them off first, and if possible, put under. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Like I said, I ripped my uniform shirt open and put them in there so they're right there in contact with me, getting that direct body heat. It's yeah. You know, and the thing is I had first aid training. I had the basic Red Cross training that you have to have by state law when you're doing it. That's why I was so thankful we didn't just have EMTs, we had paramedics that our fire department had at the time. And it was great because these, you know, when they said, no, you keep the kid, put it underneath your jacket, keep the kid as close to you as possible, and just keep an eye on them. That was, you know, I follow their direction. Those guys are trained for it. I wasn't. And, you know, and it's better suited that I was the one holding the baby because they were able to take care of the mother and make sure the mother's all right. The baby was doing just fine. Loud, good set of pipes on him. So let's see here. Yeah, Auntie, we're all free to select our poison, but please don't select Scientology. You know, that's the thing is that, you know, and for folks that actually become victims of these cult societies, you know, it can happen to anyone. PhDs, the smartest people you know. It happens because, you know, that's how they work. They lure you in, they get you dependent on things, and they make you bend to their will because you're so dependent that life without that cult is something you can't imagine. And that's how it happens. I mean, unfortunately, there are people that get caught up in it, and they're, you know, before you know it, they're full-fledged members. So, all right, Chad, you got anything else for us tonight, bud?
Well, like you said, Paul, we have the pre-show tomorrow if anyone wants to join that.
Very excellent.
And one last thing, shameless promotion, but in the morning we're going to try to get back to a waterfalls if anyone wants to join Clearwater Chad's channel. And
is that going to be you and Chaz or just you?
Just me. Oh. I know, right? I know. I love when he comes.
Yeah, it's great.
He's at the age where he's with his friends. You know, 9 years old.
Oh yeah, and that, you know, that's the thing is that, you know, there's that time between 4 years old and 10 years old where they're your best buddy. They want to be stuck to you like you know, like they're attached at the hip, and you grow such a great connection with your child. And that's, you know, for me, that was the happiest point of being a father. You know, I'm very proud of my children and I love them to death. I can't think of life without them, but I so miss that time between 4 and 10, you know, watching them become real little people. And it's great stuff. So, this is a good one. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Streaming a stream. Chad goes meta. I like
nice. Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's good. That should be the name of it. Streaming a stream.
People seem to like the waterfall streams.
That's cool. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Have at it. So, all right, folks. Thank you so very much for joining me. And like I said, Tuesday night, I will be back with another episode. We're going to be going into Scientology actually coming out in opposition of the right to repair. And I have a special guest that's going to come on with me. Hopefully he's committed to it, but you never know. Things have been crazy around here. But he's going to give us a special insight into the actual patent that was turned in for the e-meter. And this person is someone who is an expert in the field and can give us their actual estimation as to what that e-meter is. So, as always, if you are part of any kind of organization and you are terrified on how you're going to support yourself, support your family, there are people out there to help you. You know, all you have to do is reach out and ask for that help. If you are a member of Scientology and you're wishing to escape and you don't know how you're going to do it, how you're going to take care of yourself, how you're going to take care of your family, the aftermathfoundation.org is there for you. And folks, life is short. We get one shot at it, so make it count.